In this video, we're going to take a look at reading and understanding word problems. Now, here's today's goal, and you want to write this down in your notes. The goal for today is to be able to tell in your words what is known, what needs to be answered, and also the answer to word problems. Now, anytime you go to answer a word problem today, you want to follow these steps. And I want you to pause this video and write these steps down. Okay, so you want to first of all figure out what you know. You want to figure out what you're trying to find out. You want to show all of your work and solve the problem. And then finally, it's really important to write your answer in a complete sentence. So you want to include this in your notes. So now we're going to take a look at this first problem. You can just follow along as I go through this. And it says, Navajo National Monument in Arizona has 360 acres. Fort Matanzas in Florida has 300 acres, and the National Mall in Washington, D.C. has 146 acres. How many acres are in the Navajo National Monument and the National Mall together? Now, first of all, it's important to understand what we already know. Now, I can sit here and I can easily see some of the things that we know. This kind of helps us focus our thinking. So first of all, I know that the National Monument in Arizona has 300 acres. So what we will do, we would write that down. Then we can see Fort Matanzas has 300 acres. And finally, National Mall in Washington, D.C., we can see has 146 acres. Okay, so it's important to write all that down in the what I know section. Okay, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to need the information at all. It just means that we want to write it down because we kind of want to focus our thinking. Okay, now the next thing we want to figure out is what we're trying to find out. A lot of times this will be just restating the question over, like I said, to help us focus in on what we're trying to figure out. So we take a look at our question, how many acres are in the Navajo National Monument and the National Mall together? And we can see, we would just write that sentence down in the what I'm trying to find out. Now the main ideas section is just a section where you would show your work. So we would now look back at the what I know part and see if that will help us out. And we can see that we need to figure out how many acres are in the Navajo National Monument and also the National Mall all together. Okay, so we can see the Navajo National Monument has 360 acres. Okay, National Mall in Washington, D.C. has 146 acres. We don't need to worry about anything else. Okay, so we're trying to figure how many acres this has altogether. So what we would do is just simply add 360 plus 146. Okay. And that will give me the answer of 506. Now we are not finished yet, and what we need to do, we need to write our answer in a complete sentence. Now we can see the answer in a complete sentence would be there are 506 acres in the Navajo National Monument and the National Mall together. So you want to restate that question as a part of your answer. Okay, what I want you to do now is get out your notes and your pencil, and I want you to do these next problems with me. Okay, so first of all, we're going to read this question together. It says, in a certain year, out of each 100 enlisted people in the Air Force, 13 were women. Out of each 100 enlisted people in the Navy, 9 were women. How many more women were in the Air Force than in the Navy out of each 100 enlisted people? So the first thing we will want to do is try to figure out the things that we know. Okay, so we can see in any certain year, out of each 100 enlisted people in the Air Force, 13 were women. So that's an important fact. So we will want to write that down. Along with this, we can see out of each 100 enlisted people in the Navy, 9 were women. Okay, so those are the two key facts that are going to help us out solve our problem. So we're going to write that down in the what I know section. Okay, so you can see I just simply wrote the two facts that I know out of each 100 enlisted in the AF. Okay, and I abbreviated, and that's fine for you to do whenever you're writing this out. Okay, 13 were women. Out of each 100 enlisted in the Navy, 9 were women. Okay, so that's what we know. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to focus in on the question that they're asking us.
And a lot of times this may just be simply rewriting the question that they're asking us, but that's okay. What it helps us do is just really focus in on the question that we're trying to answer, because a lot of times word problems can be a little tricky and we don't even know what we're trying to answer. So in this case, we can easily see that we're trying to figure out how many more women were in the Air Force than in the Navy out of each 100 enlisted people. So what I will do is just simply rewrite that in the section of what am I trying to find out. Okay, so how many more women were in the Air Force than in the Navy? So you will want to write that down, what I'm trying to find out. Now the main idea, that's the area where we're going to show our work. Okay, so a lot of times whenever you're comparing two things and trying to figure out who has more of a certain thing, you're going to use subtraction. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to take 13, because that is the amount of people, of women enlisted in the Air Force out of 100 people. And we're going to subtract 9 from 13. Okay, because that represents the amount of people that were in the Navy. And then we can get the number 4. Okay, so that's going to answer our question. How many more women were in the Air Force than in the Navy? 4 more women. Now we are not finished yet. We've just solved the problem. The final thing is we have to write it in a complete sentence. Now once again, I'm going to take that 4 and my answer and make it into a complete sentence. So I have, there were 4 more women in the Air Force than in the Navy out of each 100 enlisted people. You can see I restated the question as a part of my answer. That's really important, even though we're in math, that you begin with a capital letter and also an ending mark. Now we're going to take a look at the next problem together. Now we're going to read this problem together. We're going to do this together again. Okay, so it says Marty counted 14 starfish on the beach. Megan counted 19 starfish, and Mindy counted 9 starfish. Okay, so the first thing we're trying to do is figure out what we know. What's the important information that we know? Okay, so we can easily see some of the key information. Marty counted 14 starfish on the beach. Use a different ink. We can see Megan counted 19 starfish. And finally, we can see that Mindy counted 9 starfish. All right, now for the what we know, we just want to simply write this down. Okay, so what do I know? Marty counted 14 starfish on the beach. Megan counted 19 starfish on the beach. Mindy counted 9 starfish on the beach. So what I'll have you do is just pause the video and write this down. So my next step, after I've written down what I know, I'm going to try to figure out what I'm trying to find out for the answer. Okay, what question am I trying to answer? So like I said, a lot of times it's going to simply just be restating this question. It's asking me how many more starfish did Marty count than Mindy. Okay, so what we want to do, we will write that down. Okay, now as you can see, this is important because they've given us some extra information in this problem, but that's okay. We're just going to zero in now on what we need to know. So they're asking us how many more starfish did Marty count than Mindy. So believe it or not, we don't really even care about Megan anymore. Okay, so in our minds, what we can even do, or if you even want to do this on your paper, you can even cross out Megan counted 19 starfish on the beach. So we're going to zero in on Marty and Mindy now. Okay, so now we've come to the main idea, or the show your work section. And once again, what we're doing is we're comparing two things, just like the previous problem. So they ask us, how many more starfish did Marty count than Mindy? Now we know that Marty counted 14, Mindy counted 9, so we're comparing again. Alright, so we're going to take 14 minus 9, and that gives us 5. Now we're not finished with our problem yet. We want to write this in a complete sentence. Okay, so now we come down to the conclusion, for the solution. Okay, we're going to write this in a complete sentence. We're going to restate the question as a part of our answer. So the question was, how many more starfish did Marty count than Mindy? We can have here, Marty counted 5 more starfish than Mindy. Once again, capital letter at the beginning, ending mark at the end of the sentence. Now what I want you to do is complete this problem all by yourself, you do need to include the what do I know, what am I trying to find out, main idea, and then the solution in every single word problem that you do. This just breaks it down and makes sure you don't, it makes sure that you don't make any careless errors. Okay, so I want you to pause the video, work on this problem, and then when you press play, I will have the answers for you. So I want you to pause the video now. Okay, now what we're going to do, now that you've finished this problem, I'm just going to go through the what do I know, what am I trying to find out, the main idea and solution, and make sure that everything matches up. Now there's a lot of information that they give right at the very beginning that kind of builds some background knowledge on even the problem. Okay, so we don't need to necessarily include, you know, historical facts or anything like that in our word problems and the what do I know. We just want to include some things that we know for sure will probably help us solve the problem. So in the what do I know, I could see the Blue Angel started flying in 1946. Okay, they've really only given us one key fact that we need to know. All right, now what are we trying to find out? We are trying to find out by just looking at the question here, in what year did the Blue Angels celebrate their 50th anniversary? Okay, so once again, all we're doing is just repeating that question and just really focusing in on just the question that they're asking us and not getting caught up about World War II or anything else like that. Now the main idea, or the show your work section, what we did, we took 1946, which was the day that the Blue Angels, or the year the Blue Angels started flying, and we added 50 to that, which represents 50 years later because they celebrated their 50th anniversary. And in what year did they celebrate their 50th anniversary? 1996. Okay, now we're not finished yet. We need to write this in a complete sentence. So the way we write this in a complete sentence is the Blue Angels celebrated their 50th anniversary in 1996. And that concludes this video. If you have any questions about word problems, please come and see me. It's really, really important for every word problem, and I do want to see this in your notes, that you figure out what you know, what are you trying to find out, main idea and solution. I also want you to label them just like I have right here on the video. So once again, if you have any questions on this concept, please come and see me.